Ah!
It was a quiet, cool night in a small suburban town. The moon hung low in the sky, casting long, eerie shadows across the perfectly manicured lawns. Inside a cozy two-story house at the end of Maple Street, 16-year-old Emily sat curled up on the living room sofa, engrossed in her favorite mystery novel. She was a slender girl with long, dark hair and piercing blue eyes that seemed to see into the very soul of anyone she met. Her parents had gone out for the evening, leaving her alone with strict instructions to lock all the doors and not to open them for anyone. Emily glanced at the clock, 10:15 p.m. She set her book down and stretched, feeling a slight pang of hunger. She headed to the kitchen to make herself a snack, relishing the quiet and solitude of the house. The wind howled outside, causing the old house to creak and groan, but Emily paid it no mind. She loved the thrill of being alone, the sense of independence it gave her. As she rummaged through the fridge, she heard a faint noise from upstairs. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it sent a chill down her spine. She froze, listening intently. Silence. Shaking off the unease, she grabbed a yogurt and a spoon and made her way back to the living room. The wind picked up again, and the house creaked louder this time. Emily's heart began to race as she heard another sound, more distinct, like a soft thud, followed by the sound of something being dragged. Her imagination began to run wild, but she tried to stay calm, convincing herself it was just the house settling or a tree branch hitting the roof. She resumed reading, but the unsettling noises persisted. Every creak and groan seemed amplified in the empty house. Emily set her book aside, her appetite gone. She decided to check the locks on all the doors and windows, just to be sure. As she made her way upstairs to check her bedroom window, she heard it again, a distinct, heavy footstep coming from her parents' room. Panic surged through her. She quietly tiptoed to her parents' door and pressed her ear against it. There was no mistaking it now. Someone was in the house. Emily's mind raced. She had to call the police. She bolted down the stairs and grabbed the phone, dialing 911 with trembling fingers. The line rang, and she felt a glimmer of hope, but just as the operator answered, the call was abruptly cut off. She stared at the phone in disbelief, then tried again. The same thing happened. Her heart pounded in her chest as she realized the intruder must have cut the phone line. She glanced around, her eyes landing on the front door. She could make a run for it, but what if he caught her? She needed a plan. She crept back into the living room and grabbed the first heavy object she could find, a brass candlestick. She clutched it tightly, her knuckles white, and tried to think of a place to hide. Just then, she heard footsteps coming down the stairs. Emily's breath caught in her throat. She darted into the hallway closet, leaving the door slightly ajar so she could see out. The intruder entered the living room. He was a tall, muscular man with a menacing presence. His face was obscured by a dark hood, and he moved with a predatory grace that made her blood run cold. He scanned the room, his eyes cold and calculating. Emily held her breath, praying he wouldn't find her. But as he turned towards the hallway, she knew she had to move. She slipped out of the closet and quietly made her way towards the back door, but as she reached for the handle, the man appeared at the end of the hall. "Looking for something?" he said, his voice low and threatening. Emily's heart leapt into her throat. She swung the candlestick at him, but he was too quick. He grabbed her wrist and twisted it, causing her to drop her weapon with a cry of pain. She struggled against him, managing to break free and darting towards the stairs. Emily sprinted up the stairs, her mind racing. She needed to find a place to hide, to call for help. She dashed into her bedroom and locked the door, her hands shaking. She grabbed her cell phone from the nightstand and dialed 911, but the call dropped again. Panic set in as she realized the intruder must have a jammer. The door rattled as the man pounded on it, trying to break it down. Emily looked around desperately for something to defend herself with. She spotted a pair of scissors on her desk and grabbed them, holding them tightly as the door finally gave way. The intruder burst into the room, his eyes filled with a cruel determination. Emily slashed at him with the scissors, catching him on the arm. He cursed and lunged at her, but she dodged, adrenaline giving her speed and strength she didn't know she had. The man's heavy footsteps thundered behind her as she ran from room to room, trying to stay one step ahead. She barricaded herself in the bathroom, panting heavily. Her mind raced with thoughts of escape, but the intruder was relentless. He pounded on the door, the sound echoing in the small space. Emily knew she couldn't stay in the bathroom forever. She had to find a way to outsmart him. She glanced at the small window above the sink, but it was too small to crawl through. Then she remembered the basement. It had a heavy door and a lock from the inside. If she could get down there, she might have a chance. She waited until the intruder stopped pounding on the door, listening carefully. When she heard his footsteps move away, she quietly opened the bathroom door and slipped out. She tiptoed down the stairs, her heart hammering in her chest. She could hear him searching the rooms above, his frustration growing. She reached the basement door and opened it, slipping inside and locking it behind her. She felt a moment of relief, but she knew it wasn't over yet. She needed to find a weapon, something to defend herself with. She scanned the dimly lit basement, her eyes landing on a rusty old crowbar. She picked it up, feeling its weight in her hands. She knew she had to be ready. The intruder would find her eventually. She crouched in a corner, trying to control her breathing and stay calm. Minutes felt like hours as she waited in the darkness. She could hear the intruder moving through the house, his footsteps growing louder as he searched for her. He reached the basement door and tried the handle, finding it locked. She heard him curse under his breath. The door shook as he tried to force it open. Emily tightened her grip on the crowbar, ready to fight for her life. The door splintered and cracked, and the intruder finally broke through, his eyes wild with rage. "There you are," he snarled, stepping into the basement. Emily backed up against the wall, her heart pounding. She knew she couldn't run anymore. She had to stand her ground. The intruder advanced towards her, a cruel smile on his lips. "Stay away from me," she screamed, swinging the crowbar with all her strength. The intruder dodged, but she managed to catch him on the shoulder. He grunted in pain and lunged at her, knocking the crowbar from her hands. They struggled fiercely, Emily fighting with everything she had. She kicked and scratched, desperation giving her strength. In a final, desperate move, she grabbed a heavy wrench from a nearby shelf and swung it at his head. The impact was sickening, and the intruder crumpled to the ground, unconscious. Emily didn't waste a second. She grabbed the crowbar and ran up the stairs, locking the basement door behind her. Emily finally managed to call 911, her voice shaking as she told the operator what had happened. The police arrived within minutes, storming the house and finding her huddled in the living room, exhausted and traumatized. They assured her she was safe now, but when they went to the basement to apprehend the intruder, they found the room empty. The window had been shattered, and there was no sign of him. The police searched the area, but found no trace of the man who had terrorized her. Emily's parents rushed home, their faces pale with fear and worry. They held her tightly, promising never to leave her alone again. But the fear remained, a constant shadow over her life. She tried to move on, to forget the horror of that night, but the memories haunted her. She couldn't shake the feeling that he was watching, waiting for another chance. The intruder had vanished into the night, but the terror he had inflicted would stay with her forever.